Hello, my name is Amanda Brenner, and this is my final cultural presentation. For my final cultural presentation, I decided to do a slideshow talking about gender roles. To start off, we need to define what gender roles even are. So gender roles are the role or behavior learned by a person as appropriate to their gender, determined by the prevailing cultural norms. Important thing to recognize about this is that this is based on culture. So what may be a gender role in the US may be different than it would be in China or Papua New Guinea or even Britain. However, Western culture does seem to have taken over a lot of European and American culture, so we can assume that Western culture is pretty similar in terms of gender roles. So traditional gender roles, as you can see broke down in this chart, males are supposed to be aggressive and strong, while females are supposed to be agreeable and weak. Males tough and assertive, females polite and passive. Males outdoorsy and athletic, females domestic and gentle. Males independent, while females community-oriented. Males are supposed to be strict and emotionally stable, while females are traditionally supposed to be emotional, sensitive, and nurturing. Males are supposed to be math and science oriented, and females are supposed to be liberal arts oriented. We'll talk in a little bit the impact that these roles have on individuals as adults and also where these roles come from. But I think that you can agree that in our society, this is pretty common. We typically see advertisements. We are brought up with certain toys. We see people showcased in different career paths that typically go along with these gender roles. This is probably something that you've been exposed to your entire life. So when we're talking about gender roles, we have to recognize that they are social norms that we are taught from a very young age, and this is through the process of socialization. Socialization is a process of learning a behavior in a way that is acceptable to society. So pretty much any kind of social knowledge that we get, we're going to get through the process of socialization. But it's not like you sit down in a class and are just taught, this is socialization, and here's how you behave. There are a lot of different agents that act upon socialization to teach us what is expected in our culture. These can be most predominantly family. Family is going to teach you the rules of the society. It's going to teach you the wanted behaviors and the unwanted behaviors. But this is followed very closely by school. School is where you spend most of your time as a childhood, most of your waking hours during your childhood. And it's going to teach you a lot of things, yes, about grammar and rules, but also about social settings and values and how you're supposed to behave. This is followed very closely by peers. Peers are the gender police. Specifically at a young age, little kids will tell you if you're acting in a way that you're not supposed to act like a boy or like a girl. We'll see an example of that a little bit later on. But as you can see, there are lots of things that feed into socialization, and these are things that are shaping us to act and behave in a certain way, including gender roles. So this is a really cool video. It's talking about how socialization really affects us, even at a young age. We talked about peers being the gender police. This is a really cool video that you can watch talking to preschoolers who are only like 3 and 4 years old, but already have very definite versions of and opinions on what it is to be male and what it is to be female, and what's girl stuff and what's boy stuff. I think it's really interesting. It's definitely worth taking time to watch. So we're talking about gender roles, but how does this actually affect us? Well, it affects us a lot. When we look at gender roles, we see how they lead into sexism. Traditional gender roles are going to affect the relationship between men and women in both domestic and public spheres. So when you look at gender roles and the idea that men should be aggressive and women should be passive, it affects our public and private relationships. For example, traditionally, it's expected that a man is to pay attention and lead a relationship while a woman is supposed to be more passive. You also see this in terms of sexual assault. You understand a little bit more where this comes from when you look at gender roles and the belief that men are supposed to be aggressive and women are just supposed to let this happen. Obviously, that's not the way that it should be, but we can trace the roots back to gender roles. This also affects the workforce in terms that you don't see as many women doing quote unquote tough jobs. You see women going into more of the liberal arts, of teaching and nurturing jobs, while you see men who are supposed to be science and math oriented going into those kind of jobs, but also going into jobs like construction or manual labor, because that's what is expected. Men are supposed to be tough and women are supposed to be gentle and weak. Of course, we also have to talk about intersectionality. Whenever we talk about any kind of form of discrimination, oppression, or just different life for certain individuals, we have to recognize that that's not across all individuals, because individuals are not just one thing. You're not just female. You're a white female, you are a female of a certain age, you are a female of a certain religion, a certain ethnicity, on and on and on and on. I specifically want to talk about women of color, though. So women of color have a unique experience that's different than women who are white or Caucasian women. Because they are facing discrimination from both being a woman and being a person of color, they are kind of caught into this section of facing double discrimination. Because of this, you'll see women working in a certain work field and people of color working in a certain work field, but not women of color working in a certain work field. And that can be a really big issue. And it is a really big issue. It's something that we have to be aware of. Lastly, these are all the sources that I got all my information from. I hope that you enjoyed my cultural presentation and that you enjoyed a lot.